Hello, people of the internet. Welcome to the special report, your news and views program about geek gaming culture on the internet. Coming up in the show today, Bethesda cancels PS4 mod support, it would seem, because of a curation conflict over who controls what. And it seems as though this is Sony doing the blocking and not Bethesda, but we will get into all the details. My name is JD Shadow, and the special report starts now. Bethesda confirmed that mod support for PlayStation 4 games that is not going to happen. This is because apparently Bethesda is getting cock-blocked by Sony, and after probably months of trying to get this to work, and by that I mean trying to get Sony to calm their tits for just one moment, Bethesda decided that they're going to put out a message saying, quote, "After months of discussion with Sony, we regret to say that while we have long been ready to offer mod support for PlayStation 4, Sony has informed us they will not approve user mods the way that they should work, where users can do anything they want for either Fallout 4 or Skyrim Special Edition. Like you, we are disappointed by Sony's decision given the considerable time and effort we have put into this project and the amount of time our fans have waited for mod support to arrive. We consider this an important initiative and we hope to find other ways user mods can be available for our PlayStation audience. However, until Sony will allow us to offer proper mod support for PlayStation 4, that content for Fallout 4 and Skyrim on PlayStation 4 will not be available. We will provide that update if and when this situation changes." This is of course on their official website, and this is something that they have been touted for quite a bit. If you remember, I think it was during the 2015 or 2016 E3 press conference, I'm not quite sure which one it was, that they touted at Doom PlayStation 4 mod support, or at least console mod support. Now, while they have seemingly got it to work on the Xbox One, it is the PlayStation 4 that is giving Bethesda a bit of a tough sell. More or less that it is Sony that is basically saying, we don't want it the way you are giving it to us. Now, before I go on to the rant and before I go on to my thoughts on this, I've been seeing that some people have been blaming Bethesda for this, for a broken promise, because they have basically said that it will be on the PlayStation 4 in the form that they had wanted it to be. And we know all about how Bethesda has supported mods. They have fully supported the mod community, at least on the PC, and they have tried to do it on the consoles as well. And it seems as though, as I said, that Microsoft is ready, willing, and able to support this sort of mod support. It is the PlayStation 4 and Sony, of course, as we said, that is being the problem child here. But here's the thing, it is not Bethesda's fault, because this is something that they have shown off before. This is something that they have shown in the past, that they are ready to go with this. They have been able to get this to work, at least on consoles, at least on the Xbox One, at least on Microsoft-based consoles, at least on the PC. And yes, I am aware that there are some people that might be pointing to a technical situation that Bethesda might not have been able to work around. I don't really think that is the case, because if it was, then Bethesda would have probably just came out and said that instead of putting the update that they did. I highly doubt that this is the case. Not saying it can be the case, and if it is, then Bethesda might want to come clean with that, but I highly doubt that is the case, and I'm going to go into greater detail about why I think it is not the case. So why is it that it's Sony that is giving them the problem? Why is it Sony that Bethesda is not able to convince that this should be on there the way that Bethesda wants it, and pretty much the way that the gamers want it to be? You cannot blame Bethesda for this, because first of all, it's not their fault. According to Bethesda, it is Sony that is cock-blocking them. It is Sony that is doing this. And in case you are wondering, okay, maybe the Bethesda is just playing the blame game here when it's them that is the people who don't want to give it to PlayStation 4 and they have some exclusivity deal, which if that was the case, they are definitely in trouble because they didn't really disclose that, and they might want to do that, or else they might be in really big trouble there. But I don't think that is the case. I don't think that is is the situation here that Bethesda is trying to deceive customers, because I don't think Bethesda is like that. I don't think Bethesda is the type of person that would go about and say one thing, then turn around and do a bait and switch. And outside of that, the other reason is because if you look at the language that they use in that update, they're actually saying that they're blaming the curation conflict. They're saying that they are not approving user mods the way that they should work, where users can do anything they want for those games, which basically means is that there is a conflict as to what mods are going to be allowed to be approved to put on the network to be downloaded and to use. Has nothing to do with any sort of technical issues as far as the language is telling us here. And that's a big reason why I don't think this is Bethesda's fault, because that kind of language makes me suspect that there's a conflict between what Bethesda wants to do about mods and what Sony wants to do with mods, which is extremely telling about this situation and who is to blame. Have you seen Sony's track record about these types of things, about user-created content? When it comes to created content by users that Sony cannot completely control in an environment that they have complete control over, they don't want it. Have you seen what happened to GeoHot? Have you seen what has happened to other OS? Have you seen what has happened to those types of deals? Every single time someone has quote-unquote jailbreak the PlayStation 3 or the PlayStation Portable or the PS Vita or whatever, they come out really quickly with an update. They come out extremely quickly to try to patch those things out, saying that these are security measures, quote-unquote security measures. No, we know exactly what you're doing, Sony. Don't try to hide it. You're trying to completely control your environment. And it's one thing to say, okay, well, it's their system, they can do what they want with it. But when does it become an issue in which the end user is getting their rights trampled by this whole thing? When does it become an issue where it becomes anti-consumer and Sony is trying to control what a person does outside of the PlayStation Network environment? Sony can sit there and say that this is security measures, that this might open a back door, this might do this or that, but we know exactly what is going on. Bethesda wants to have some control over what is put up as far as mods are concerned. Maybe is Bethesda trying to get involved with some paid mods or some sort of thing, but if that's the case, then just come out and say that. Maybe they want to do paid mods and let the IB holder be the judge of whether or not people are willing to accept that and come to terms with that. And quite frankly, I don't think they're willing to. If that's the case, then they really need to come clean on that. But I don't see that being the case, because Sony's track record proves otherwise. Quite frankly, have you seen any user-created content on the PlayStation Store at all? It has been on the Microsoft Store, it has been on Steam in some form or fashion, even though curation has its problems there. But on Sony's consoles, there was absolutely no way to get like a dev kit for PlayStation unless you're a licensed PlayStation developer. And I don't know how hard those are to come by. I don't know how hard it is to get that sort of thing. But when it comes to user-created content, Sony is really not very friendly to that sort of thing, especially when you talk about homebrew products, especially when you talk about things like that. But that is going to expose another big problem with how Sony is handling this. And that is, what did you see happen when GeoHot or George Holt or whatever you want to call him exposed that backdoor to where you could jailbreak the PS3? First of all, Sony did not sue him because he decided to use the exploit on his own measures or whatever that is. They sued him for revealing that there was an exploit, revealing that there was a loophole in the coding that allowed it to happen. Here's the thing, you're suing him for something that was your fault. That was their fault. They're the ones that let that go. And instead of fixing it, instead of doing something about it, they decided to sue somebody for revealing that it was there and doing jack crap about it. They sued somebody for revealing that they screwed up. That's their fault. They should be the ones that paying for it. They should be the ones that should be tasked to fixing the exploit, or else trying to support user-created content in a more official light instead of trying to block everything from even happening in the first place. That's why when other as got removed, a lot of people sued Sony because they knew what was going on. They knew exactly why Sony was removing it. It's because they wanted to control everything about their system. They wanted to have complete control over that environment. Even when an official developer like Bethesda decides they want to try to support mods on their console. This is not something new that Sony has done. They have done this in the past, so you cannot go and say that this is all Bethesda's doing. You might be saying that, okay, Bethesda tried to force Sony's hand here and say, oh, this is definitely going to happen, when in reality they were still in negotiations to try to get it to happen. But even then, even in that case, you might make the case that Bethesda might have done something pretty smart here by saying, hey, Sony, either you're going to support this or you're going to get called out immensely for this. And Sony putting their heels in the sand and saying, we're not budging for anything. We're not budging even for a developer that we might want to have some good relations with. Remember, Bethesda and Sony have not had a very good relationship. You might understand that they gave 360 and Microsoft some exclusive DLC for Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas. Maybe Sony might want to try to get this to work if they want to get Bethesda back on their good side or something along those lines. I don't know why Sony would not want to at least try to get on Bethesda's good side. But when GeoHot got sued by Sony, you want to know what some people that were on Sony's side decided to call GeoHot? They called him Frodo. They were cheering Sony on to try to bankrupt the guy in order to have him settle, not because they thought Sony was right, but because they just wanted Sony to win. Win in what? What did you want Sony to win for? To be anti-consumer? Did you want Sony to just say, hey, we want to block every single thing that has to do with user-created content? Do you want the end user to be screwed over? Do you want developers who might want this to be screwed over? And here's the thing, that left the door open for Sony to be able to do whatever the hell they wanted to do with keeping user-created content off of their platform, because they know they can get away with it. They know they can do whatever they want to do in order to get away with keeping user-created content off their platform, because they want complete control. This has nothing to do with security. If the PlayStation Network, if PSN, if the PlayStation Store, if the PlayStation 4, or whatever Sony console you might want to bring up here is that unsecure, that you cannot afford for an official developer like Bethesda to let official mods, let user-created mods that they might curate onto your platform, then you have a bunch of things you might want to explain to the people who are using PlayStation Network, especially when you are upping the price of PlayStation Plus to $59, $60 a year for the yearly subscription. I am not going to be for or against consoles or PC. I'm not like that. I'm not part of a PC master race. I'm not part of the console peasants thing, or whatever you want to call them, because I think that competition makes the industry better. I want competition. I want everything to do well. I want the consoles to do well. I want the PC to do well, because that means the industry will do better. And there are a lot of games on the Sony console that I enjoy playing. I'm not going to sit here and be shy and saying that there are games on that platform and on the PC that I want to play, or on the Nintendo Wii U, or when I get a Xbox One, there might be games on there that I want to play as well. But here's the thing, their relationship with consumers, as good as their fortunes are right now with the PlayStation 4, is the highest selling console this generation, and they just came out with the PlayStation Pro announcement, which basically means that some of those games are going to be 60 FPS. Quite frankly, not all of them with 60 FPS. That was kind of what we wanted, Sony, and you're instead talking about 4K resolutions. That is not the only thing we wanted you to do, Sony, and you neglected to say that all games would support 60 FPS in your console. But as good as this relationship is right now on that front, the fact that they are doing all this and they think they could possibly get away with it because some people on the PlayStation fanboy side saying go ahead, do whatever the hell you want. We're going to support you regardless. We're going to cheer you on regardless of what it is. No, we're not going to do that. We are going to call you out. We're going to call you out immensely until you fix this. We're going to continue to call you out until you let Bethesda do what they want to do with this system the way they want to do it, not your way, because quite frankly, we know why you want to do it your way, because you want complete control. You want control over what Bethesda does, which isn't that good for developers either. What kind of message you're sending to other developers that might want to do the same thing? Unless you fix it, we're going to continue to call you out because you deserve to be called out. You deserve to be called out with the GeoHot thing. You deserve to be called out with the other S thing. And now you deserve to be called out with this. And if Bethesda did this to force your hand, then that was a smart thing on their behalf to do. Because look what the majority of people are putting the blame on right here and are really calling out in this situation, rightfully so. Some people are taking bait saying, hey, this was Bethesda's fault. No, it's not. Bethesda tried. And you can probably take it to the bank that Bethesda tried because of Sony's track record with these sort of situations. They have to really get better. Now, they have to. Because if you want to convince people who are playing on PC majority of the time or all the time that this is a good investment to get on Sony's console because we're going to do what the PC is already doing but in your living room, then not only do you have to support the indie scene that's actually doing good games and not just putting out crappy products just so they can get $1, but you also have to at least try to accept that user-created content exists and people might want to do that. And if you could have an official way in order to let that happen and allow developers to be able to do what they want to do with their own products that they are allowing consumers to be able to do on any other platform, why do you think that is a good business move or a good consumer goodwill move? Why do you think that's a good move, period? Why do you think that's something that people want you to do? No one is being fooled here, Sony. No one. This is you doing this and you alone. Your track record proves this. And here's the other thing that's being problematic and why I do believe this is Sony's doing. There is radio silence right now. And that tells me that there's something about this that is Sony's doing. Unless they come out and say, hey, wait a minute, we're not the ones to be blamed here. And they have a track record of that too. When the PlayStation Network went down in 2011 and people were saying, oh, what's going on? Give us an update, Sony. You want to know what Sony said? Nothing. There were crickets chirping. You could hear a pin drop with how little Sony was saying. And we're not saying divulge all your ungodly secrets to the world and leave yourself open for anybody and everybody, but say something. Give us some sort of update. And here's the thing. People were cheering Sony on for not saying something like, oh, do you want Sony to divulge secrets in order to have someone else hack the system? You know what? If that is all it takes, again, there's a lot of problems that Sony might want to consider fixing on the security side. What is it, Sony? Are you just not willing to fix whatever it is that's the problem here on your security side? You're saying security is akin to stopping people from having user-created content on their PlayStation 3 or their PlayStation 4, PS Vita, whatever other system you create. That is security to you? That is helping security? No, that is not helping security at all. Especially when things like credit card information is just lying there in unsecured code, just waiting for somebody to randomly come in and hijack your account and just see it. Are you kidding me? Is it not encoded that well? Come on, Sony. This is not being secure. This is you trying to control everything and you're not helping anything on your behalf. And this is among all the other problems you are starting to see right now with things like the price hike with no real good reason you're giving as to why you need a hike in the first damn place. The PS Plus store suddenly has no real good free games for you to at least try out. Whereas before, you were kicking some ass with what games you were just giving away to those people who subscribe to PlayStation Plus. And now you having this whole debate about whether or not we should have to pay in order to play online on consoles, which you helped start. You're the ones that helped start that, Sony. And now you're doing behind this? Why? Why is it? Why are you being silent about this again? Why don't you just say something? Anything is better than radio silence. Anything is better than just sitting there letting the birds chirp and just staring out into space. That is far and away the worst thing you could do right now. You have to come out and at least bring this up front and saying, hey, this is what we're thinking. This is our side to this story. And we're not going to let Bethesda just randomly come in and blame us for this situation. That we wanted these mods to appear on the PlayStation 4. But don't just be silent. That just proves your guilt when you talk about your track record and what's going on now. And Bethesda is saying right up front, hey, we wanted this to appear on your console and you wouldn't let us, so we're gonna call you out on it. Maybe instead of trying to blame everybody else for your actions, Sony, and instead of just trying to think that silence will make it go away, if you ignore it, it'll just go away, maybe just do something that you haven't done in a while. Communicate with us, and maybe start thinking about user-created content not being the spawn of Satan, because it is not. It is not going to hurt your security measures. If it is, then you have a lot to talk about with your security measures and how you're handling the situation as if you're handling it at all, given a track record on that too. It's not going to make people just suddenly go out and play pirated video games on your console. It's not going to suddenly have a influx of homebrew games on your console, and even if it is, so what? That's not up to you to decide whether or not they do that, and it's not up to some random fanboys to dictate whether or not they're allowed to do that. It's not going to hurt anybody for you to let this happen. All it's going to hurt is you having full control over everything that happens in your stores or happens on your console, and to be quite honest with you, that's part of the problem. You are not creating the solution, you are creating the problem, and it is our fault that we let that happen and we allowed it and maybe encouraged it to happen. But it's about damn time we say enough is enough. Just because you are the top console developer right at the moment does not make you invincible to criticism and critique, and this is not going to go away, and we are not going to allow it to go away until you fix this situation and calm yourself about user created content, because this is not helping and this is probably the turning point. Let's hope to Christ it is. That's going to do it for this edition of the special report. Thanks as always for watching. If you liked what you see, that like button is down below, and if you definitely like what you see, hit a subscribe. I try to post new content as quickly as I possibly can. Until next time, my name is JD Shadow, and that just happened.